Now, competencies model for human resources. We are going to talk about competencies models thereby. Exactly speaking, I wanted to highlight that competencies are essentially pivotal to success, and that is what I've given a photograph of a crown in this particular video. Welcome everyone to today's videos of competency model, exclusively for human resources. That is what to say around here. So, what are we talking today in this today's agenda? We will be talking about basic understanding of competencies, the key terminologies that has been used, learn the human resource system design, and how it needs to be implemented. What are the models that needs to be highlighted and probably perfected so that the performance of the organization flourishes. We are talking about staff development. We are talking about recruitment initiatives. We are talking about zero defects, Six Sigma effect that needs to be brought in around here. So yes, we are talking about basic understanding. Yes, we are talking about performance management. Yes, we are talking about staff development and recruitment initiative thereby. So everything that goes around here is being summarized by the photographs that has been shown to you in this particular slides. If you look into it, your skills and knowledge are just the tip of the iceberg. Here in the lies below the water is all your behaviors, all your attitudes, your achievement, your values, your trade, and your thought process, the culture that you have been brought and bred up with. So that is what your behavior is all about. It. This is the amalgamation of your attitude, your value system, your traits, and so on and so forth. So let us try to strive for a high performance organization, and for that, what needs to be done? Job description typically articulate the skills of knowledge necessary for success. They describe what needs to be accomplished. This is one thing that needs to be understood time and again. Core behavior competencies encompasses the interpersonal skills, the traits, the value needed for organization, individual success, and describe how the work needs to be done. So what needs to be done? Exactly the goals that we are talking about and the path that comes around it and how it is to be accomplished. So these are two things that goes around here. Talking about the winning formula, remember I've already showed you the photographs which says about skills and knowledge. Yes, but with it, in addition to the behavior, is what will make the whole iceberg is all about it. Remember, the whole iceberg is the competencies. Your behavior is the most vital element to determine the criteria of success. So, it's a high performance organization. The competencies has to be there. If you have the right skill set, if you have the right know-how, and if you have the right behavior goes around it, you are going to talk about a high performance competencies. Defining competencies, it's nothing but skills and knowledge and probably behavior. Did I say ASK? Attitude, behaviors, and skills. ASK or KSA, knowledge, skills, and attributes or attitude, how the way you want to go around it. It is that we are talking about it. Let's say for a director of accounting, an example for you to just go through. It's the skills that a person needs to go around it. Probably very good with numbers, coming up with budgets, that depreciation part of showing, preparing the cash flow on the monthly to monthly basis. So what does it did? That is the skill set that needs to be done. So what are the competency? Remember, what are the competence that he or she must be possessing? Probably the requisite degree in terms of finances, probably the knowledge of GAP, general accounting and audit principles, as has been popularly known as. Now, these are the knowledge and skill set that he or she has to possess, but actually needs the most vital thing is your behavior. That is the amalgamation of thought with the strategic thinker, the leaders of the organization, the innovative, how well he or she is into the system. That will define the competencies per se. So there are something called core attributes or generic competencies, behavior that apply to each employee, off role, off level, considers to be the price of admission into the organization per se. Professionalism, integrity, ethical. What are we talking about? We are talking about professionalism. Now, basically, you need to understand what is your work and you should not have any lacunae towards your work. Everything gets a secondary preference. Work gets the primary preferences per se. So your professionalism, your integrity and ethical. Then comes the core competencies. Also applies to all employees. However, proficiency level and expectation differ based on role and level. So, depending upon either you're the lower end of the organization, the mid level of the organization, the top end of the level of organization, your competence levels will go from human skills to conceptual skills to technical skills. Now, what needs to be done for the top level? The conceptual skills has to be very good. Technical skills for the middle level staff, managers needs to be good. Human skill in the frontline level people, employees who should be able to talk around it. This is what we will be talking about time and again as on when on basis. So yes, we are talking about professionalism. Yes, we are talking about integrity, ethical. Now that is what your general competencies or core attributes, or core behavior of each employee, perhaps towards his or her role, in which function he or she has been appointed or doing, performing. Now, what are we talking about? This was generally competencies. Now, what are the core competencies? Core competencies are everything that applies throughout the organization. We're talking about communication, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about relationship building. It is all about networking that goes around it, and this needs to be understood time and again, perhaps. So we have done with generic competencies, we have done with core competencies. Let us proceed to the leadership competencies and most importantly, technical competencies based upon the three levels of employees that I've already said it to you. In technical competencies, as far as the director of accounts are concerned, he or she needs to be very proficient with budgeting, very proficient with project management or controlling cost, and should be analytical as to where the resources has to be deployed and how it has to be optimally used per se. So that is what the technical competencies for a director of accounting, or for that matter any person in their level of jobs, you need to go for it. Then talking about competencies for leaders, we're talking about developing people, developing a succession planning has to be done, inspiring others, strategic thinking then and there, what to proceed, how do we go about it. Now, we are talking about leadership, developing people, inspiring others, and strategic thinking. Let us talk about the competencies model. A competency model is a framework of listing organizational competencies. What are organizational competencies? Is the exact knowledge and skill that the employees bring it towards the to the table of the organization, their skills, their knowledge, and probably the values of the organization will mold their behaviors altogether. The competencies are usually clusters towards the categories. Most models include a competencies title, definitions, proficiency level, and behavior indicators. Now, how do we go around it? I will be giving you a sample examples of P1, P2, P3. Now, these three things about awareness, application, integration, and strategic things. So, we are talking about beginners, we are talking about intermediates, advanced, and SME. SME is nothing but subject matter expert. A person who is working on a particular domain would automatically, for a stipulated period of time, will become a subject matter expert towards that particular machine, towards that particular domain, towards that particular job profile, and so on and so forth. So we are talking about proficiency levels in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4. P1 becomes awareness, P2 becomes application, P3 becomes integration, P4 becomes strategic. The competition model, if you look around it, this has been done by various authors, and the manifestations are different in different books. Probably in this particular presentation, I'm giving you two depictions around here. And if you're looking into it, we are talking about developing, coaching, and assessing. And this goes round by round. Round the year, round the globe, round the job, round the organization. Let us talk about teamwork, achieving business result, or let's say conceptual thinking, critical thinking, technical knowledge, leadership, communication, organizational know-how, personal effectiveness, and we need to improve upon it time in and day out, and day in and day out. And it's a never-ending process, perhaps. So we need to go about it, exactly speaking about it. So yes, competency models and the proficiency model, that is a must requirement. So talking about the awareness, application, integration, or the strategic levels that goes around it, in the very basic level is all about awareness, talking about what is right way to do around it, what the ethical behaviors, what to do and what not to do, to-do list and not to-do list, absolutely to-do list, adhere by it, and absolutely not to-do list, abstain it thoroughly. That is one thing that needs to be going around it, and it can be done only on P1 level, the basic level. Follow through, meet commitment. P2 is application oriented, the intermediate level. Here we are talking about the actively seeking out solution, not looking at problem, not, or probably in fact trying to dissect the problem and coming up with alternative solutions altogether, holding self accountable for achieving the result, ensuring that whatever you are doing with it, you should be accountable and make it a profitable ventures come what may. Identify and assess the addressing areas of weaknesses that many may impact. P3 is all about integration. Now, this was the intermediate level, and then is the advanced or the expert level that we're talking about it. The advanced level is integration. Is now you are talking about choosing or taking the ownership. owning the work around it on behalf of the company by seeking a solution with an appropriate stakeholder, maintaining a positive attitude or constructive approach towards your life, actively developing solutions to achieve organizational result, hold self and probably others accountable for appointed responsibilities. And the strategic one, the P4 one, is the subject matter expert. Now, how do we go around it? Who's ultimate responsibility for overall performances? You are one, because you are the subject matter expert, because you have played a sufficient amount of time and you know the whole network or the gamut of things that is involved with that work. So you need to be responsible for the overall performances. Take ownership of the outcome, come what may. If the outcome might be fruitful or probably maybe dejecting or may not be very rewarding, but take the ownership, because once you take the ownership, you will ensure that things becomes much more successful in due course of time. Define objective, ensure successful outcomes in meeting the needs and the requirement of the stakeholder thereby. So if you look into it, I'm just giving you a sample thing. This is just a sample, and everybody can be mapped n numbers of time. If you look into it about in terms of organizational resources, accountability, communications, now you say it and we will look into it. Initiative, innovative thinking, and people might have the different position that comes around here. We have the assistant customer coordinator, accounting, manager accounting, director HR, the chief operating officer, COO, and everybody has their skill set of basic, intermediate, advanced, and the subject matter expert level. And if you look into it, COO, the chief operating officer, has to be on the P4 level, but probably the accounts or service customer service people would be always on the basic level of P1. In between of coordinator and the manager, there are certain key things where they can shift from P2 to P3, or probably they are much more fluidic in nature, perhaps. In terms of managers and directors, it's much more rampantly very fluidic. So that needs to be understood. This particular slide has been given to you to understand what we are trying to do. We are mapping a competencies with the position that people are holding it around it, and with that position, the competencies, what level of knowledge, is it basic, is it intermediate, is it advanced, or is it subject matter expert? These are things that needs to determine, because based on this, not only outcomes, not only performance management, not only reward management, everything is linked to it. So implementing the human resource system of competency model, we'll talk about the challenges thereby. Lacked in common languages to describe a successful organization, probably an individual performances thereby. How do we come across with it? Subjectivity in the performance management process, not enough focuses on assessing critical behavior for success in recruitment processes. Staff frustrated with unclear expectation. Now these are the challenges people are abject to. People do not have the requisite knowledge, or even if they have the knowledge, they are not confident about it. And even if they are confident about it, they are not very confused. They are very confused with the end objective per se. So need to understand the commonality in terms of communication barriers are there. So we need to understand those critical behavior that the people should be displaying. So these are the HRS challenge that goes around it. Competency benefit is to clarify performance expectations, create a common language to design high performances, link all HR functions to the organizational strategies, increase ability to recruit, hire, and retain the right talent perhaps. Now, these are the things that needs to be focused upon by the HR person itself. Provide strategic insights to the OD requirement, the organizational development requirement. So you need to tell every employee that what is expected of them, how well they are performing, what are the right things to do, what are the things to avoid, probably ensuring that right persons are only being hired for, and probably mapping their expectation with the organizational development needs. And if there is a complete in fashion tuning between one and the other, there are no hiccups that will take place around here. Did I say the HRS system that I've already shown you, as far as competency models are all about it? Another depiction. You remember, this is what another depiction is all about it. Right from creating an individual plan, if I may say so, then to identify the core competencies with the job that the person is actually involved in, establishing the standards as what standards is acceptable and what is absolutely not, what standards needs to be adhered to, Then talking about mapping of each position, probably this is where people must be aware whether they are doing perfectly on their job, can they be promoted, if promoted, what needs to be done, or what all attributes needs to be depicted, and assess them accordingly then and there. It is again a competency perspective that comes around it, as we are looking forward time and again. Integrating the competency model in HR initiative, performance management, training development, career roadmaps, succession planning, compensation and rewards, recruitment and selection. What are we talking about it? We are talking nothing about anything about the organization, but we are only talking about initiative that HR can do it in terms of mission and strategy. The whole thing can be conceptualized, implemented from mission and strategies itself around here. If you look into it about performance management, what the mission state, what kind of person we need to hire around it, training and development. If people, the adequate number of people in the requisite qualities are not available, can we groom them up? We need to ensure that the roadmaps for their career and the development, the progression needs to be actually notified to each one of them. Succession planning, compensation and rewards, recruitment and selection is what we are looking forward to it. So let me elaborate the recruitment process. There are two recruitment, traditional and the competency-based recruitment. In traditional, we only are looking at technical skills. We are only looking at the knowledge. We are only looking at the qualification. Do we look about job description? Probably no. Do we look about the inconsistency and subjectivity in the recruitment evaluation problem? Probably again no. So we are giving much more weightages toward technical skills and job knowledges, perhaps. But in competency-based recruitment, we are not only talking about qualification, but we are talking about skills, knowledge, behavior. In fact, people are being asked to do the work and give a sample of their work at the time of the recruitment process itself. For example, a position of chef, a chef might be asked to prepare a dish. A software programmer, a programmer might be asked to probably write a program, code a program, something like that. So there is a sample of work that needs the employers can infuse confidence in the employer. So job description are actually being made available to the incumbent, the applicant, and everybody knows what is expected and what can be done. Formal and consistent recruitment and evaluation process. Creation of the behavioral even interview takes place as on when on basis. So what are we looking exactly to performance management arenas? How do we enhance them? Absolutely. It is measured only in three areas. Number one is an overall objective, the goals achievement. Technical job knowledge, proficiency with core competencies. Competency assessment process is exactly what we talk about it. Individual development plan accordingly needs to be mapped with the organizational development plan and commitment to development. Development in terms of quality, development in terms of revenues, development in terms of customer satisfaction. We need to be committed to these goals, and people will see wonderful things happening in their life. Probably since the organization will be flourishing with a high performance work team. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video.